Hello everybody, it's PokeZelda and today I'm going to do my promised Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice review. First off, I would like to start off with summarizing the main plot. The beginning of the movie takes place during the Man of Steel, with the Wayne building in Metropolis being destroyed in the process due to Superman and General Zod's fights. This led to a worker named Wallace to be injured and lose use of his legs. Note this for later. 18 months pass, and Superman is blamed for the killing of civilians when rescuing Lois Lane from a terrorist. More time passes. We are introduced to the first scene with Batman, showing how cruel he is in this movie by marking a criminal. This mark would lead to his death in prison. Lex is introduced and Batman steals his files during one of his presentations in front of a crowd. Later, Superman is taken to court to testify Wallace, who has received a new wheelchair from Lex, who had rigged the chair with the bomb, which exploded. Superman becomes sad, used for a week, during which Batman's driven over the edge by Lex's blackmail and prepares to fight the Man of Steel. After Superman returns, he is threatened by Lex, who had his mother captive, to fight Batman and bring back his head within the hour, or Martha Kent would be dead. A great fight ensues, with Batman almost winning until Superman brings up his mother's name, Martha, which is odd since he never called her Martha, which I'll bring up later, which drives Batman insane because his mother's name is also Martha. Batman is told the situation by Lois. Batman saves Martha, while which Lex, who was in the Kryptonian ship from the Man of Steel, learned how to make a Kryptonian abomination with Zod's dead body. Superman arrives and fights the new creation, now deemed Doomsday, but is subdued for a while. After an attack from the military, we discover every time he is hurt, he regenerates and gets stronger. Superman brings Doomsday to space, and the government shoots a nuclear missile, making Doomsday stronger. Batman joins the battle, helping Superman. However, when all hope seems lost, Wonder Woman appears, and a really cool scenes with Wonder Woman. They discover Doomsday's weakness is kryptonite, due to the fact that he is made from Kryptonian, and by this movie's logic, that doesn't apply to the comic Doomsday. Superman takes the kryptonite spear once used by Batman on Doomsday, who had regenerated a blade on his hand. Well, one of his hands got cut off and it got replaced by a blade. This killed Superman at the same time. Batman relents and promises to form a Justice League-like organization, which pretty much this movie is leading to. Because I forgot to mention earlier in the movie, I can't pinpoint when it was, he received files from Lex Luthor that had superhumans like Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman, and Wonder Woman. Then Superman's coffin has dirt rising, signifying that he is not indeed dead, which is of course nod to the comics, but honestly I think right now it was a waste. I'll bring that up more in another section. And this ends my first part of the review, which is explaining the plot. Now on to the positives. I personally believe this movie has some positives that are a bit major compared to the negatives that I'll bring up later. I believe Superman in this movie was depicted okay. That's a positive. I would also like to say that the action scenes are really entertaining and not one dull moment. And if we ignore how accurate it is to the comic, because that's what you should do with these movies, is Doomsday was decently interpreted in this movie, and they put him to decent use in the fight scenes, but there's one major problem with him that I'll discuss later. But overall, I think this movie did what it was supposed to, which was establish a way to form the Justice League. Which also, another positive is the cameos. I really enjoyed the cameos with the Flash and the Cyborg. However, I'll discuss Aquaman's later because it has one major flaw in it as well. The final positives I want to discuss with this movie are Wonder Woman, which had a very good performance, surprisingly. I honestly thought Wonder Woman wouldn't be that great in this movie, and they surprised me. And Batman. Batman was not as good as Ben Affleck, not as good as Christian Bale, but still very good. However, like most things on this positive side, each thing has one major flaw. And that's where I'll get with the negatives. The first negative I wanted to discuss is Batman's character not really making sense. He's supposed to, in the comics, he doesn't use guns, and in this movie, he uses guns, and then you start to question, why hasn't he just killed the Joker yet? And that is a really big flaw. It's baffling how all the villains in Suicide Squad are somehow still alive. Because Batman in this movie is just like, I'm gonna kill everyone here. Second is Doomsday is wasted in this movie. I believe they should have used Doomsday to kill Superman in this movie much later, because it would have had more impact, because we only had 1.5 movies with Superman, and that isn't enough. Even though I was sad, that was mostly because I like Superman as a character, not the Superman in Man of Steel as much as I would want if he was going to die. So I believe they should have used him later and used some other villain who can regenerate. And last of all, I would really discuss Aquaman. From interviews, we got the impression that Aquaman would have a major part of this movie, and he didn't, which disappointed me. But not to mention that his cameo was really boring, and it could have been much better than it was. And that ends my negatives for the movie, at least. Now, critical response. This movie I received either overpraising or underpraising. Overpraising from DC's fanboys. DC fanboys have overpraised the movie, and people who have bashed the movie are mostly critics. With the DC fanboys, they need to accept that their movies aren't going to be as good as Marvel's. I'm going to be honest here, I didn't enjoy this movie as much as some of the Marvel movies. And even on the other day on the internet, I saw a meme that said it's still better than Age of Ultron. I'm like, no, it's not. Age of Ultron's better. Even if Age of Ultron was slightly disappointing. In critical response, the critics have bashed this movie for a lot of things, and they make good points, but it doesn't deserve a 3 or a 4. I think out of 10, this movie deserves around a 7 or to an 8 out of 10. Nothing more than that. I can actually accept less. And I mostly agree with Son TJ because I watched his review the other day, and it pretty much sums up my opinion on this movie. If I were nitpicking this movie a lot, but it would be lower, but I'm not going to do that. It's a movie. Just sit down and watch it. Very fun. Overall, I'll give this movie, as I mentioned over, a 7 or 8 out of 10. Despite what critics say, it is as bad as what they say. However, they have a right to, since this movie was very overhyped. And DC fanboys need to stop overpraising this movie, because it's no Age of Ultron, it's no Avengers. But it is definitely probably the best Zack Snyder film I've ever seen, which the only other one I've seen is Man of Steel, so yeah, doesn't really show much. But if there's one thing to describe with this movie, is it's definitely better than Man of Steel. If you enjoyed Man of Steel, you're going to enjoy this movie. And go into this movie with an open mind. Because if you go with it with a closed mind, you probably won't like this movie. Like and subscribe, and goodbye. Have a nice day.